Everyone, J Strokes here again. I'll be opening a sealed pre-release kit and then building a deck with the contents. We'll open the packs first, sorting by color instead of by rarity like we would do if we were opening a booster box, just because that's how we would be sorting to make our sealed deck at a sealed event. And then at the end, I'll kind of walk through the cards choices. I'll have a little bit of a jump skip, but that's just so we can get the cards organized. First pull is a Tarkin. Pretty solid leader who can snowball, especially if you get a bunch of Imperial units or open an overwhelming barrage. Guardian of the Wills, fine card there if you can get very many upgrades. Gonna scoot those over so we can sort villainy and heroic into their own stacks. Homestead Militia is fine. Mining Guild tie is actually pretty good in sealed in my experience. That draw can help out quite a bit because the decks are so small. Especially when you don't have anything else to do. Kind of has a resource sink. Crafty Smuggler, great card there. Cheap unit plus the shield. Hardpoint, Heavy Blaster, not a great uncommon. Because you gotta open a bunch of vehicles to make it really worth it. Ghost is fine if you have specters. Otherwise, a little cheap for what it does, but it does have a shield. Saw is fine in aggressive builds since he zaps people if they try and play events. Can really mess with certain decks, especially in constructed. Doesn't see a lot of play currently, but fine card. Second leader will be Jin. Good card in sealed. Good for attrition to kind of force uneven trades. Another keep fighting. Skiff is okay if you're playing lots of green. Alliance Dispatcher. More of a constructed card. Surprise Strike is really good if you're in yellow, any yellow deck. Asteroid Sanctuary is nice. Really love that hyperspace version of it. Really looks great. Especially those space cards. Reinforcement Walker is nice. Really great top end constructed playable card. Only bummer here is that that is not an Imperial unit, so it doesn't really synergize with Tarkin at all. Oil Guard would be great in Tarkin. Another Crafty Smuggler. Hyperfoil there. Gonna pull these into separate stacks where I put the aspected heroic and villainy cards in one stack and then just the pure heroic or pure villainy cards in their own stack, but don't know if that's really that necessary. Opened a Grand Inquisitor, so getting some pretty good villainous plus leader cards. So rare leader. Go base defender is a good sentinel constructed card. Rugged survivors is a bit filler. Rogue operatives are fine. Volunteer soldiers a little bit more filler. Smuggling compartment kind of in the same situation with that heavy blaster, where it's not great unless you open a bunch of vehicles. Bodhi Rook, double yellow. Not really that great in sealed. Fine constructed. I mean, it's definitely potentially playable, but a little expensive at double aspect. Paying 5 for that. Krennic. Going through all the colors and villainy here for our leaders. Just our Stormtrooper, fine early drop. Really good aggressive card. Scoutback Pursuer is great in an Inquisitor or Krennic build. Underworld Thug, really not kind of worse even than that other generic trooper. Wing Leader's good if you get a lot of rebels. Rare in this pack is Heroic Sacrifice, which boosts power and lets us draw. But defeats the unit at the end of the phase or the end of the attack. Open Chewbacca, our second heroic leader. With Regional Sympathizers, our first common. Those are vehicles, so they can, help out with those cards. Plus, being rebel traded is good. Plus, Restore is also nothing to sneeze at in a sealed pool, especially Restore 2. Vanquish, really premium removal, especially in a sealed format. Frontier AT-RT is good with vehicles also. Ruthless Raiders, really good space units. We're getting kind of stacked villainous cards here at this point. Entrenched is really awesome, especially on like Grand Inquisitor or Krennic, but also it acts as a semi-removal. And then we get an awesome pull there with Luke as a legendary card, along with Ezra Bridger, another good force unit. So if we can, I was kind of leaning towards villainy until we opened that. It'd be really nice to play that, but I don't know if that card by itself is enough to really do it. We open Emperor Palpatine, another rare villainous leader. Only one we'd be missing is a Thrawn, so really kind of stacked in the villainous leader section of this. Don't have a lot of ramp though. The Super Laser Tech works really well with him and with Grand Inquisitor. Spec Force Soldier's fine. Steadfast Battalion, fine to play in green. Got Carabast for removal in red. Got a Vanguard Ace. And then we get a Redemption, so another really great blue-white card, along with a red fancy Tarkin Town. Foiling on that is cool, I think, where it kind of cuts out partial foil, so it really makes the art stand out. In this pool, I really thought, like I said, that I would be going with villainy at first, but opening that Redemption, opening that legendary Luke, it's really hard for them to come back if you open such stacked kind of bomb cards. So if we can get to that point in the game, really, and last that long, game should be ours. So I would go with Chewie or even Luke here. We opened 14 hits for Chewie. He gives Sentinel to units that cost 3 or less. We have a few less hits on Luke. Luke gives heroic units shield, but you got to pay 1 to do that, as opposed to the free tap action with or exhaust action with Chewie. So I was honestly really not even leaning towards Luke, who I would, play 99% of the time. Really, the only turn to play that we have with Luke is a Vanguard Ace versus cards like this Crafty Smuggler here, which are really great with Chewbacca. They kind of we didn't open any Wilderness Fighters, but since they have shields, if you stick them out with Chewie, I mean, really hard to get rid of. I kind of acts as almost like a fog would act in Magic to kind of trip them up. I mean, a lot of these cards, especially with Chewie's ability, will draw you at least a turn. And if we're just trying to last into the late game, really should not be that hard to do. And Chewie would help us do that a little more than Luke, I think, because, like I said, we've only got one even turn 2 play with 3 resources to start even shielding stuff. And then we're, because it costs resources to shield with Luke, even though I think he's a better card most of the time. In this specific deck, I do think that there's a strong case for Chewie due to the 14 hits that we can use. For that wing leader, we do run 8 rebels. Would have 9 with a Luke leader if we decided to go that route. Here's the rebels here. Even stuff like Rogue Operative, we can stick a Sentinel on it, 4 health. It's really hard for them to get around. Same thing with Ezra. A lot of these low cost units are really annoying for them to run stuff into. Even stuff like Swoop Racer, because they don't want to, run into that and then take like the 4 damage. That's why I slotted in this Underworld Thug and Volunteer Soldier too, just because they give us more low drop units. Getting a little bit into the higher cost cards. Syndicate Lackeys is a great ambush unit. Gamorrean Guards themselves, we'll have Sentinel with a yellow, as long as there's another yellow unit out. So I think we have, with those 2 guards, Redemption, Vigilant Honor Guards later, and Baze Malbus. That gives us 5 Sentinels plus 6 with Chewie himself, which is a ton of Sentinels again to really last into the late game. Drop that Luke with that Restore 2, drop that Redemption with 9 health, Sentinel, 6 damage. They're not going to last long, and we should be able to, with all of that health, all of those Sentinels, all of those units, be able to last for a while. Plus we do have Regional Sympathizers there, which also has Restore 2. Even outside of all of these units, we have a fair amount of really support cards to help us last that long too. Is Baze, so he really only has initiative while we have, or only has Sentinel while we have initiative. But here's what I was talking about with like a Moment of Peace. Really great on Sentinels because they have to run stuff into it and they can't kill it, so it just makes it last that much longer, especially with Chewie. If you watch some of my earlier videos with sealed drafts on Force Table, or not drafts, just sealed pools, really, if you can put Moment of Peace on Chewie, put an Entrenched on Chewie, it is resilient, something like that. It's really hard to deal with, especially in a sealed environment where there's not great ways to deal with that. Forces with Me has 3 hits with Ezra, the main deck, Luke, and that Guardian of the Wills. It would have 4 if you used leader Luke. Asteroid Sanctuary, again, another stall piece, gives a shield, exhausts a unit. Exactly what we want to be doing here to last into the late game. It's a surprise strike. Really great game-ending card, constructed staple at the moment. Plus, just let you get in that little bit of extra damage to remove a Sentinel unit that you need if you need to get in. We'll just kind of quickly go through these other ones. We really only ended up with 2 rebels in red. I guess 3 if we have Saw, but paying a 6 for him just doesn't really seem all that great, and there's not a lot. I think you could have made a good case for red if we had opened up a few more of those cheap red units. Keep Fighting is really good, but again, we just did not. There's like almost enough in red to make me go that way, but I do think, there might be a case for it with Karabast, Guerrilla Attack Pod, but really opening like 1 of each of these cards that we would like a few copies of. I think opening 2 Crafty Smugglers and, a number of those other staples in yellow kind of solidified that for me, because 2 Crafty Smugglers plus all those other Sentinels and shield granting things, just solidified that decision on that end for me.